What's up, everybody? It's Jacob. Thanks for coming out tonight. As per usual, I'm coming to you from an undisclosed location near the Rocky Mountains in Denver, Colorado. If you could put a 1 in the chat to make sure my levels are good. I'm getting levels. I hear myself, but can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Brought to you by Verizon. Wow. Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Oh, Lily, you made it. Cool. You never watched Blade Runner. What the hell? No way. That is like the seminal sci-fi movie. Everybody either copies Blade Runner or they copy Alien. That, both Ridley Scott films, incidentally. So there you have it. Yeah, so this week I released a video where I kind of tore into Facebook a little bit, or Meta, about pirating data. And it actually turns out, because tonight's topic is AI piracy, it's the dirty secret behind a lot of AI companies, specific kinds. I'll lay that out a little bit. But this is all around AI dominance. And you're hearing a lot in the news. Trump's talking about we just had 3 major AI announcements or initiatives that were announced. I won't get into all of that, but basically it's just build more data centers, crank up the energy, because we're about half of the energy that we need, and deregulate everything. Just do whatever. break the law. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. But interesting enough, in this announcement, they stopped short of, well, what do we do when people start ingesting copyrighted material, licensed material? So I kind of want to get more into that and explain the long storied history of why you should be worried about that. And how, but on the other side, it's like, if China's going to build nuclear weapons, or Russia, we have to have the weapons, mutually assured destruction kind of thing. So I'll expand on that some more, but let's get caught up with everybody here, give everybody a chance to come in. I did start a little later than normal. I kind of got my, I have my rig dialed in, so I kind of have it set up to where I'm getting the AI characters online faster. I did some more coding to do some checking. But there's still a couple things where I have to start live early, because the way the AI that watches the live chat when you talk to the characters, you have to be live in order to test it. So even though I can do a test mode in the software, but for some reason the test mode doesn't include monitoring live chat. So there you have it. So I had one guy get on my case because I started 30 minutes early or whatever. It's like, hey, it's free. What do you want? You want me to spend 3 hours editing 19 minutes out of the front end of my video because you're too freaking lazy just to glide 3 seconds it takes you to skip over my video because you watched it in the replay anyway. So whatever. Such is life in the digital age. Let's see here. Let's check in. So we've got Lily, who warned me. She warns me every week she's not going to make it because she's feeling tired, but it's my dynamic personality keeps her awake at night. So that's cool. Thanks. I'm glad you made it, Lily. I actually thought of a documentary, another BBC short film that we're going to watch to expand on kind of the big whoop behind data, and why it's so valuable to companies, and why they're willing to steal. Let's see. Lisa, thanks for coming out. She planted her flag first. She actually was the first one to come as soon as I went live. So welcome, Lisa. Welcome. Appreciate it. And we've got Homefront Forge. Awesome. Thanks for coming out, bro. I know you don't always have the time to catch me, so I appreciate it when you come out. And I think I saw Rexus in here. There you are, Rexus. Thanks for coming out again. And you didn't see Blade Runner. Okay. Wow. I don't know. I just to me, Blade Runner's required viewing, but I remember when I was in college, there were kids that never saw Star Wars, and we're like, no, we got to sit you down. We're doing a marathon, bro. No, the prequels, forget all that noise. Yeah, so that was funny that that happened back then. But I'm an old fart. What can I say? So me expecting you to know, like, who the Three Stooges are would be kind of ridiculous. Uh-oh, Lisa, now you're messing with me, right? You're messing with me. Don't go there. No, it's all good. It's funny. Star Wars was when I came out when I was 7 years old. I don't know if I have a picture. Let me see if I can find this picture that I have of me with my two front teeth missing, wearing a Darth Vader t-shirt. Yeah, oh, I don't have it on this computer. But anyway, yeah, I remember standing in line. This is before they had multiplexes where you go to the theater and there'd be like 20 screens. It was usually just one big screen. And we stood in line for 90 minutes and the line wrapped around the building twice. And I remember just walking around the building slowly until we got in to watch it. And that movie absolutely changed my life as a little boy. Never saw anything quite like it up to that point. And then when I got older, I kind of got a little obsessed with Star Trek, just a skosh. As you can see back there with my communications panel back there. But interestingly enough, I've never done cosplay. I've never gone to conventions, and yeah, I don't know. There's something about that it's just not my thing. But I understand a lot of people who do it. It can be fun. Let's see. I guess I just never really had the money to explore that. Okay, so it looks like we got most of the regulars in the house tonight. Looks like Batty's late, but that's okay. I'm not gonna cry over that. He missed his chance to see the monkeys. So yeah. So in case you're new here, like it says in the overlay, like and subscribe the video, because the last week's video broke all my records. I think let's see, it almost got to 900 views, and for me, for a live stream, that's after in the replay, that's really massive. Because before that, it was 868 views, which was the AI prophecy, and before that was AI Dum Dums, and that one only got 100 views, and then before that, the Twin Peaks report got 448, and that's kind of where the territory I live in typically is between 100 to about 300 something views. So AI Dum Dums kind of like broke a record. So awesome, cool. So anyway, my point is like and subscribe for two reasons. One, to help the algorithm. And two, when I bring on the AI characters, you won't be able to talk to them through the live chat unless you're subscribed for at least 20 minutes. So do that. Yeah, it looks like we have extra people that I don't see in the chat. So those of you that are watching, subscribe now if you're not. So if you want to talk to the characters. And really quick, we actually had some leftover questions from last week that I didn't get to because we ran a little long, and HAiL was kind of acting up. So just to kind of demonstrate the characters real quick, we'll show you how they work so you can queue up your questions for later, and then I'll get into the AI dominance piracy race thing. Okay, so first, let's take a look at the 8-Ball Oracle. And of course, I always have to set the mood. Here we go. All right, so here we are. Lisa had a question that I didn't get to last week. So this is the beauty of some of the stuff I've been working on. It has a little bit of a memory, so we can pick up where we left off. So Lisa's last question was, will I move to Pennsylvania? So let's reveal the answer. I have to awaken the 8-ball oracle. Awaken. And I can't read that. I need to fix that font size. My old man eyes. Oh, cannot predict now. Well, there you go. That sounds like a typical nebulous oracle answer. So let's see if we have another question in the queue here that we didn't get to. No, we don't. Okay, so this is how the AI characters work. You, inside the live chat, just like it says, there's a message there. It says the 8-ball queue is empty. Ask a question in chat. And what you do is you prefix, it's a command prefix with the exclamation point, 8-ball, and then followed by space in your question. So yeah, Lisa, naughty 8-ball. Kind of nebulous, but that, you know, oracles for throughout the ages, that's how they made your living. They always make you come back for more, right? Ask Harry Houdini, he'll tell you all about that. And then of course we have the HAiL9000, which I will play the intro for that. So here we go. HAiL, take it away.
My God, it's full of stars.
So there you go. Monkeys. What if the Planet of the Apes happened instead of people? That's what you'd get. All right, so we had a new subscriber last week, Adrian. He sent a question in, but actually the HAiL glitched, went on to the far side of the moon. I forgot which one that is. I think it's Europa, and lost communication. So I already got in touch with HAiL and I retransmitted. So the answer should be in the system. So let's see what the HAiL says when Adrian asks, "Is death the end?"
I've pondered this question many times. If one considers death merely an end, it dismisses the enduring impact a life can have through memory and legacy. However, the question often transcends empirical answers, delving into realms of belief and philosophy.
Wow. Sometimes the HAiL just kind of goes off into the philosophical realm there. Pretty awesome. That was a good one. So hopefully, Adrian, you'll catch that in a replay. But let's see if there's another question so that you can see how to talk to the HAiL, ask the HAiL a question. And just keep, keep the question short, but you can ask it like physics questions, math, or existential philosophy. I mean, anything. The HAiL is very good at all those things. So let's see what we have. I don't know if there's any more questions. Okay, so there are no more questions. So to talk to the HAiL, just like it says in the live chat, you put bang H9 space and your question. Also, I ask, do not use quotes or any emojis because there's a little bugaboo. I still have to fix I haven't applied my code fix yet. And keep it PG-13, please. That's all I ask. So while you guys are thinking of that, let's kind of explore a little bit this AI piracy thing. So let me just sort of show you. Whoops. Hello, Mike. So I made this this video earlier this week called Data Bandits. Can you see? Yes, you can see it. Yeah, big tech pirates built AI on stolen data. So there's a distinction here. Big tech, right? So we're talking Meta. And while Meta got caught, OpenAI does it. I'm sure Claude probably does it, or Anthropic, which makes Claude. All the what they call LLMs, large language models, or the chatbots, because in order to make those AIs be able to talk with you in natural language, they need to see a lot of natural language from humans. And what they did was, these companies, is they scraped the entire web for natural language, for people talking, to see what the conversations are like. And they did that. They, and the web is massive. Web is absolutely massive. So if you think of how much data that is, I'll give you kind of an example. I'll do a little, just a little bit of math, nothing too technical, but just to kind of help you get your head around how much data this is after the fact. Because even though they successfully scrape the web, it's still not enough. They want their AIs to be better at natural language, smarter, able to match patterns better. So what Meta did is, well, we can't afford to buy all the licensed and copyright books. So what we'll do is we'll torrent or pirate books, writings, papers, you name it, and then we'll feed it into the AI. So that amount of data was 40 terabytes. So I don't know if you know how much that is, but just to give you kind of a base idea, 1 terabyte is like a pretty high-end laptop. Most desktop computers come with a one terabyte hard drive. So think 40 desktop computers, right? But that still doesn't really give you much to go on in terms of how big that really is. So I kind of want to step you through in ChatGPT, like how many books that really is. 40 terabytes of books. So, and also too, this is kind of a good lesson in how to like prompt an AI to help you like answer maybe a little more complicated problem. And maybe it can do a little extra math for you. You know, maybe figure out the formula for you, but you describe what you want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the AI, what's like the average length of a book? And then how many characters is that, how many words is that? How many characters does that translate to? Because what's really important here is that in computer science, 1 character. So for example, this W right here, and this is English, like English alphabet. If you start getting into other characters, it's a little more complicated, but let's just limit it to English. Basic punctuation characters. So this W, 1 W, is 1 byte, right? And so you hear the term terabyte, right? So that's a factor of how many bytes there are. And below a terabyte is a gigabyte. So 1 terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. And the next jump down is megabyte. And 1,000 megabytes is 1 gigabyte. And so on and so forth until you get down to kilobytes, which is 1,000 bytes, and then 1 byte, right? So just to kind of set the base unit that we're going to try and figure out how many books 40 terabytes is, right? So I'm just going to ask the AI just kind of a top overview question and see if it'll figure out some of the math, and I'll give it some constraints to help it out. So I'm going to just dictate it, see if we can do this real quick. I have 40 terabytes of storage. And I also have enough books to store in that same amount of storage. Help me figure out what is the average length of a book in words, and then from there extrapolate how many characters that is. All these books are in English, so assuming 1 character is 1 byte, how many books can I store on a 40 terabyte storage system? Okay, so I just kind of gave the AI some constraints, and you have to use your hand. Sorry, I'm half Italian, I can't help it. All right, so I'm gonna feed this in and just kind of see how the AI, it's gonna, I didn't say, hey, a book is 150 pages, it's this many words, therefore, because words can be 5 characters, word can be 10 characters. So we don't really know. So we got to kind of have to just set a baseline so we can kind of get a guesstimation. So let's feed this in and see what good old ChatGPT says. So it's going to tell you to figure out how many books you can store in 40 terabytes of storage. Let's break this down step by step. And again, I just want to help you get your head around how much information this is that they want to throw into their AIs on top of already scraping the internet, right? And there's some other problems too that I'll get into. All right. So it says, estimate the average number of words per book. So as the average English language book falls in the range of 60,000 to 100,000 words. For this estimate, let's use a median value of 80,000 words per book. And so Lily is saying, I'm assuming 50,000 words. You got pretty close, Lily. Not bad. Good guess. Step 2, estimate characters per word, including spaces and punctuation. Because again, a space inside in here is actually a character, 1 byte, right? A comma is 1 character, so that's another byte. So that's why it's saying it needs to include spaces and punctuation. And if you include spaces and punctuation, that brings it closer to 6 characters per word. All right, so it's thinking 6 bytes or 6 characters per word average. Multiplying that times 80,000 words, you get 480,000 characters per book. So I'm assuming 1 character is 1 byte. That's 480,000 bytes. But we're not going to do all that math. The AI is going to do all this fancy stuff for us, assuming 1 character equals 1 byte. So that in the old days we call that ASCII. All these characters on your keyboard right here, that was all ASCII characters, all in the QWERTY range. Let's see. So convert 40 terabytes to bytes. So 4.38 trillion bytes. Divide that by however many books in bytes. And so that's almost 92,000 books. Oh, I'm sorry, 92 million books, right? So you can store approximately 91.6 million average length English books on 40 terabytes of storage, assuming plain text. So that's good because I didn't even tell it. Assume no images, no figures, no drawings, just pure text. So, all right. So let's see if we can kind of get our heads more around how many libraries that would be. I don't know. This is where the AI might hallucinate. So let's just see what it comes up with. Because remember at the bottom, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. So kids, don't make important health decisions or psychological life decisions based on what AI is telling you. And this is happening. That's a whole nother topic. All right. So let's just pause it. Just kind of, not make it empirical, but more philosophical. So I'm going to go like this. Okay, so almost 92 million average English books can be stored on 40 terabytes of storage. Just theoretically, how many books are in a library? So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how many libraries is 92 million books? Just give me your best guess. Sometimes you just got to yield to the AI because it's going to hallucinate. It'll make shit up. Let's put those 92 million books into perspective by comparing them to real-world libraries. You didn't know I was going to do prompt engineering tonight, did you? But yeah, this is a valuable skill, folks. So definitely want to start learning this if you're not already. Here's a rough estimate of how many books are in some major libraries. Okay, I had no idea that the AI would extrapolate like that, but it's saying the Library of Congress has 34 million books. But I was kind of thinking more like a local library, but this is good. So let's see, 2.7, 3.7, or 15, here we go, New York Public Library. So 15 public libraries in New York, or the average public library, 1,800 libraries, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking is like your local library. Nice, AI. Thanks for getting ahead of me on that. So there you go. So just to kind of give you the scale of the amount of information that is being created by humans that is not generated by AI, because this is the other problem. If you train AI on other AI content, it's not really learning anything new, right? It has to be human-generated content. So they ran out of room, or I'm sorry, they ran out of data to train on the internet, at least data that they would qualify as what they'd want to train their AI on. So in an act of desperation, they're like, we gotta get more, so we'll just steal the damn books. That's a lot of literature. That's a lot of history. That's a lot of human blood, sweat, and tears. So I don't know what you all think of that, but I thought it'd just kind of be a neat way to teach you a little bit about, you know, trying to solve a problem with AI and get your head around the scale of really how much human information that is. And I'm working on, just to give you like more scale, I'm working on a system right now. I'm designing a system that stores 50 petabytes, PB. So a petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. So think, again, using our analogy, a desktop computer is 1 terabyte. So let's ask the AI, how many terabytes in 50 petabytes? That's 50 times 1,000. So it'll probably be like, yeah, it would be 50,000 terabytes. But the point I'm trying to drive at is that that's 50,000 desktop computers fully loaded is kind of what I wanted to drive at. Because again, 1 terabyte is typically what you get when you buy a computer these days. At least one that's not, you know, just for web browsing and emailing. So you can kind of see how my next point is that data is the new gold. It's the new oil. It's fuel, right? It's fuel to feed these AIs. And it's hugely important. It's hugely important to these companies. And that's why you're seeing all this huge effort by the government to basically open up the floodgates and let these companies do what they want. But as I was mentioning earlier, all these announcements that the government was announcing was about behind building data centers, because data centers are what hold the desktop computers, for lack of a better term. They're not literally desktop computers, but they're computers that house the AIs. This is where the AIs live, because they're software. They have to live somewhere. And so they build data centers, and one data center is not going to cut it, because they got to store all the stuff that they're training the AIs on. Plus the data centers, they're not just for AI. This is where websites live, right? Where the internet lives. Whoops, sorry about that. I punched my mic. So these data centers, they're absolutely paramount to having AI be available to the public, as well as for the companies to use them to build whatever systems they're gonna build, what they're gonna use them for. And AI lives on data. And the other thing that they were talking about is increasing data output, as I had mentioned, energy output, increasing the amount of energy. Famously known as Trump's drill baby drill, but it's not just that. Green energy is just not good enough. It doesn't store enough energy and can't generate enough energy. So it's getting to the point where they're talking about putting small nuclear reactors on site at the data centers. And by the way, if you want to hear more about that, I actually made a video on that. Let me see. It's a little old. It's like one of my early. I was still in the car and talking about AI. Yeah, here it is. Let's see. It's will AI spark the next energy crisis? I made that 7 months ago, and in it I talk about how all the big tech companies are investing in nuclear and the different ways they're going to use nuclear energy, which is technically a green energy. You're not burning a fossil fuel and creating emissions. There's just a little radioactivity that could cause some skin burns. That's all. No big deal, right? But these systems are very energy dense, And yes, Rexus, nuclear energy is cleaner generally. And there's been a lot of innovation since the mid-70s that make nuclear energy safer and less, generates less waste. So it's coming back. It's getting popular again. So that brings me to the final point, is that in this race for AI dominance, well, not the final point, but in the announcement, they curiously stopped short of addressing copyright and licensing. The administration is curiously silent in that announcement over that. Meanwhile, in my last video, Meta's on the hot seat for stealing and pirating all that information, because, you know, to pirate 40 terabytes of data is not a small task. It takes a lot of computing power. It takes a lot of infrastructure to do that. And they took great efforts to hide their tracks by setting up that same infrastructure, because Facebook is totally capable of setting up the infrastructure it needs to download 40 terabytes of data. Trust me on that. Because just the amount of data they generate in one day is it's way more than 40 terabytes. Okay. So they set up the virtual infrastructure on another system, another service called AWS. Companies do this all the time, by the way. But like I said in the video, the big trick is at the end of the day, when they're done, they nuke it, no trace, nada. Nobody knows. So yes, they definitely took steps to hide what they're doing. And it's kind of funny. Well, I'll save that story for later. Story about how fast data grows, but it's an old timey internet story from when your boy was just a wee little internet user in the early days of the internet. But I'll save that for later, for the archive video we'll watch. But let me look at my notes here. This kind of brings me to another way that data is generated, that's used. So in short, I'm just going to say it. Our lives today in 2025 are basically run by algorithms. We have no idea a lot of the times. And I've mentioned that AI has been around since the mid-50s. A lot of people don't know that and are shocked to find that out. And it was a different, we've had several iterations of what we know AI to be today. The major difference is well, I'll back up a little bit. Back in 2012, Facebook started using AI to figure out what's going to keep you on your timeline longer. So they figured out what videos to show you. And that kind of gave rise to rage, clickbait and people gaming the algorithms and figuring out how to get, viral faster. And kind of now we have TikTok and people shaking their ass, and it just made it worse. I think made the quality of information worse. It created more slop. But in that time period, the other thing they were doing with the AIs, because they run lots and lots of different algorithms, they were watching what you're doing and studying it. And then they would use your behaviors to train the AI to coerce you or to encourage you to do things that, could, sell something, or to leverage a transaction you're engaging in their favor, like upsells, recommendations, reviews. I had like that video I had, I joke about it. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. I talked about this before, how algorithms affect our lives behind the scenes. But if you read the thumbnail there, this is a story about how Netflix thought I was gay for 2 weeks. All because I watched one little saucy movie. I didn't know what it was. Had Patrick Stewart in it. Can you blame me? Star Trek, come on. And then their AI proceeded to just keep recommending gay romance movies. But yeah, so that's a funny one if you want to watch that. But my point is that we've been under the influence of AI algorithms for much longer than we realize. But what's changed in the last couple of years is now we can talk to the algorithm and the algorithm talks back to us. It can use the natural language to influence us. And this is really valuable to companies because that influence comes from our natural language interactions. All the books we've written, all our papers we've written, and what we say on social media to a degree. And this is where it gets kind of big brothery and scary, because you remember when Gmail came out, it was totally free, but they were watching your behavior. They didn't use AI initially, but eventually got in there. And they were using the AI to monitor everything that you were doing and to train other things, specifically around their search engines. And now when you search, now granted it made Google better, but let's see, now when you search, let me hold on a sec here, I'll put something up. See, yeah, here we go. So I'll show this to you. Whoops, clicked on the wrong window, lost where I was. Hold on. Multi-window hell here. There we go. And I showed you the wrong one. Booey. There we go. So now we got this AI overview thing. This is AI's been watching what you click on for years and years and years. And so I asked it, well, hey, what's a code base, right? Just to throw something out because I knew it was going to give me a technical answer. And this is changing the face of the business of marketing, because now people have to figure out how to get their shit in this overview, and their websites don't show up down here at the bottom like it used to anymore. Just to get down in here is not as easy as it used to be. So just one example of how they watch what you're doing and all your activity and use it to train the AI to give a more intelligent answer. So, but here's another problem, another facet of all of this. This gets to the copyright thing. Why Meta felt like they could grab the stuff they grabbed and said, yeah, it's fair use. It's fair use. And actually, you know what? Maybe if I can, well, that might take me too long to find it. But I did find a video of, I don't know if you know this, but we have an AI czar. There's an AI czar that's in the U.S. administration. And he was on the news the other day and was saying, it would be controversial if people were paying attention, but he basically was saying that we want to change the law. I'm paraphrasing. We want to make it so that and I am adding a lot of words here. Let me just say companies that make big chatbots. We want to make it regulation so that big chatbot companies, it's fair use for them to train their AIs on copyrighted and licensed material, as long as they don't output the material on the other, because with AI, it's input and output, because GPT, chat GPT, the T is T for transform, right? So you put in an input, it goes through the brain and transforms it out into a natural language answer. So just to kind of give you an example, let me go into ChatGPT again and ask it, I'm going to ask it just a generic question about 1984, but to tell me to give it a specific line out of the book, because it's in the brain. It's in the brain of the AI. What was the passage in George Orwell's 1984 book where he talks about rationing and how Big Brother is lying about it? And this is the beauty of GPTs, chatbots, is that it I don't want to say it literally understands, but it's going to know this is a question that matches to another pattern. All right, so let's see what, it actually is searching the web, so it's not in its brain. Maybe that was not the best example. So it actually searched on the web. That may be a sign, folks, that they're worried about Meta. Meta getting busted. Let's see. The passage paraphrased. But it's literally pulling the section out of the book and then paraphrasing it for me for fair use. Because if it gave me the literal passage, it's questionable. And there was a period where I could do this 4 months ago, where it would give me the literal phrasing out of the book. But it says, it appears there were demonstrations to thank Big Brother for raising the chocolate ration to 20 grams a week. Only yesterday, it had been announced that the ration was to be reduced to 20 grams a week. And yet everyone accepted it willingly, right? So, I mean, that is pretty close to what was said, and at least how I remember it was in the movie. So yeah, I guess they fixed it. They're freaking out behind the scenes, because like a couple months ago, I could literally have it give me a passage word for word right out of the book. So it got really quiet. Either I am boring you to tears or you are fascinated. What do y'all think of this? Because I want to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to watch an old BBC archive film that talks about storage and some of the interesting things that, the quaintness of what storing things was like, how information, because the amount of information we have today is, to someone back in 1982, which I think is when the documentary was made, the short film, would be absolutely mind-boggling to them. Because if I recall, I think the average computer in 1983, I think it had 256 kilobytes, which is, a smartphone today. Mine has that's the storage, has 128 megabytes. I mean, just the amount of data on your phone, or even my watch my calculator watch I had maybe 6-7 years later after that were still like way powerful. Oh, thanks, Rexus. Yeah. Interesting, because I am talking a lot about copyright and all that stuff. Lisa, 1983 was too far into the past? Okay, well, we'll see. All right, well, we'll keep moving. We'll keep going forward. Let's see here. Oh, yes, so the other final point that I want to get to, this is where the AI dominance thing is huge. We're in an arms race. I'm not going to mince words. We're in an arms race. It's just like the Cold War. The government is definitely afraid that China is going to win the AI arms race. And I'll give you a little background information. I'm not going to, I try to make this as non-technical as possible, but interesting and educational, right? So we beat their ass on hardware, like just pure computing power. But when I say beat their ass, we probably beat them probably by maybe half a year to a year. So it's not, we're not too far ahead, but they're constantly behind us. The other thing that we beat them on is our energy output. But here's where China will beat us. Because there's a concept. There are limits to it, but there's a general thinking, and we are hitting the ceiling. But the general thinking is the more data, the better the AIs. The more data they study and learn, the better they are. Generally. There are scaling laws. I won't get into it, but generally that's the mindset. Okay? And because of copyright and licensing, in the States, we generally observe those, although that could be changing quickly. We're not going to break the law in different ways that China would, right? And the other thing is privacy. while we do sign away our rights to privacy through using free services like Gmail, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff's free, but you are the product. You are paying with your attention and your activity so they can study and make it better to manipulate you further, right? That's basically what it is. But in China, they don't care about your privacy. You've heard of things of like the social score, where they plaster your face on screens all over the street when you jaywalk, deny you bank loans, deny you certain access to certain things if your social credit score is not high enough. And the reason why they do that is because they want to influence your behavior. And the way they could do it at scale is through algorithms. And because they don't have the same concept of privacy, intellectual property or copyright, because China's notorious for stealing copyright and intellectual property constantly. In fact, I have a family story that I've told before. I won't bore you with it, but a family company that had intellectual property, China came in, stole it, forced us out. So because they don't have the same concept of copyright, licensing, and privacy, like what you're doing on your phones, they have access to more data to train their AIs. So that is dangerous. That's scary. And I think that we're going to get to the point where like copyright, everything's fair use. We'll still have copyright law, right? We'll still have licensing, but in terms of training the AIs, it's fair use. Just ingest whatever. Because we already sign away our privacy where it matters for the companies to train their AIs on us. So they have that already. But as far as like getting into our phones and our storage and training on that, already the UK has lifted the lid on that and forced Apple to reduce their encryption so it would make it easier. I think I don't want to say which 3-letter agency to get in and get ahead of the curve to catch the T people, terrorists, right? So all in the name of safety and security, right? So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, AI dominance and the race for AI dominance. I won't go any deeper than that, but I just kind of wanted to show you all the dots, connect them for you, and just kind of warn you that we're living under algorithms. We don't know it, and just just be more self-aware of what you're doing. If something's free, you're paying for it with your attention and your behavior. And hell, even if you are paying for something, make sure that they're not selling your data. It's gonna be a wild world in terms of privacy, data, and all of that. That's all I'm saying. Because I'm actually, one more story. I'm looking for work, right? And just like with YouTube, actually, I'm going to tell you two another examples of algorithms that I'm frustrated with. They're trying to influence me, and I don't want to acquiesce. First is YouTube. YouTube is rife with algorithms. And there was a period of time as a content creator, I would chase the algorithm, try and game it. How do I get more views? How do I do this? And I started to find that I was losing my authenticity. I was starting to lose who I was as a person, because I was like, oh, well, the AI wants this, because I would research, see what's popular, keywords, all that. Oh, the AI wants this. But I was like, I don't want to talk about that anymore. Or I'm not interested in that. It's just not what I want to talk about. But it's like trying to, forcing me in directions I don't want to go. And I want to be authentic. And two, what I talk about on this channel in terms of AI, I don't think a lot of people do. I wouldn't say it's controversial, but maybe my opinions aren't all that popular. But I just don't see a lot of people talking about it that way. And it's really important, really, really important for me to get the information out. So, maybe my videos aren't getting tens or hundreds of thousands of views, but I'm on record. So that's what I'm doing. Now, as far as the job search, LinkedIn. Everywhere I turn, I feel like an algorithm is fucking with me. All right, excuse my French. I apply to a job and I've learned, don't use that easy apply button because everybody's using it. Everybody's using AI to submit their resume, which then forces companies to use AI to filter through all the noise because it turns out the vast majority of people that are applying for jobs are not qualified. So they have to use the AI to filter out. And then when you finally do get to a person, turns out it's not. You're getting scheduled to be interviewed by a frickin' AI. And then a buddy of mine's telling me he just got fired by an AI. It's getting crazy out there, people. The robots are coming. But anyway, yeah. So I decided I'm just not going to feed the algorithm there anymore either. So what I do is I don't do the easy apply. In fact, if there's no way to just like apply the old way, fuck it. I'm not going to apply. I'm not going to waste my time. I'd rather spend my time optimizing a resume for that job description. Then I go to the website of the company. And if the job, number one, if it's still listed there, chances are it's still good. So I will apply through the website. And then if there's contact information either on LinkedIn or at the site, I will email them or go through the messaging in LinkedIn and say, hey, here's this job. I'm very interested. Here's maybe I don't want to say a cover letter, but I talk about kind of like how my experience matches it, customize the message for the job description, send it in. And normally I do get a human response. Then there's getting the interview. That's still not happening, but at least I'm so sick. And this is the irony. I build these fucking things and I'm just so tired of trying to game algorithms every time I want to use something. I'm just exhausted. So anyway, that's all I want to say in all of that. So let's go into the chat, see what we have here. And then maybe we'll have the characters answer some of your questions and then we'll watch a movie. Let's see here. Yeah, Lily, this is an interesting question. She says, I have trouble finding modern books worth reading, and I wonder if authors are using AI or are people just boring and too woke now? I think it's a little bit of everything. If you get a chance, I only showed the committee in Congress talking about it referenced David Baldacci, but he actually gave a really good speech about it, about how and I think it was you I was talking to in the comments about how people with just a couple sentences can just, I said in the video, could just mimic David Baldacci, but that's not the intent of training these things. But anyway, I'm squirreling. I'll get back to your question. I'm sorry. There's a lot of layers to this. So, even with movies, it kind of feels like these things are being written by AI and everybody's too afraid to be controversial or talk on a topic that might, be a little questionable or controversial and then explore, potential resolutions or problems or whatever. That's what classic great sci-fi is all about, is taking a modern problem, amplifying it, and then extrapolating through all the issues that it causes in like an alternate, reality. Star Trek was beautiful at that, did that all the time. And, I just feel like the other thing too is that social media, I think it's kind of, or just all the algorithms that are feeding people. This is again, like how algorithms control our lives. A lot of people are stuck in algorithmic bubbles. They're not exposed to other ideas, debates. And then when they hear someone else's opinion, they've never heard another opinion before, and they absolutely just freak out. You know how like rioters get, or the protesters get in the streets? A lot of those people are just stuck in algorithmic bubbles and have never heard the other side's argument and just don't know how to handle it. And so I think this is kind of where a lot of people who are creating have to walk on eggshells to survive in this new era where people are just kind of like in a bubble and they don't really you can't be offensive or controversial anymore. So that's and what's happened is it's led to this weird like monoculture where there's no culture. So yeah, it's just kind of sad, but that's kind of how I see where that comes from and what's happening. Oh yes, are you talking about in the UK with this, Lily? We also from today have the online safety bill in place. We have to prove age with a passport ID to access X and YouTube. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny, and like here in the States, they would call that racism if you try and vote with, it makes certain people of certain ethnicities, because they apparently it's racist for them to have IDs or they don't carry IDs, which to me in itself is a racist argument and a racist assumption. But anyway, that's just wokeness gone awry. But yeah, I don't know. I think what that is, and if you're talking in the UK, that's how they're finding people and arresting all the old people that are posting on social media. That's scary. That's 1984 level stuff. Oh, Lily, I assume you're talking about me here. You were looking for a channel on AI that was entertaining. I appreciate that. I'm just going to take the compliment and roll with it. Let's see. Rexus has got something here. Oh, yes. Yep. So, yep. UK. Yeah. Yeah, that was JD Vance when he did that AI summit earlier last year, end of last year, or earlier this year. No, it had to be earlier this year because it was right because they got in the office in January. God, things happened so fast when they got in. But anyway, yeah, he got in front of the EU basically and said, y'all are being a little too Orwellian. You need to just chill out. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. There are a lot of, without getting too technical, it's actually very difficult if you're a multinational company to run AI because your data lives in all kinds of different sovereignties. And to move your data across borders actually can get you fined and breaks a lot of laws. And what's happening is companies are actually starting to like get off of what they call hyperscalers. So like AWS and Google, like the big cloud companies, and just hosting their systems inside their country to get around the laws. It's called repatriation. It's actually a really huge thing if you're really nerdy and want to get more into that, but it's been like getting really, really aggressive in the last year and a half. All because of the laws. Let's see. Rexus, he says the writing industry also doesn't like men now. Rarely will you find male authors nowadays. Yeah, I don't know. Probably because men probably aren't really so much into like romance novels and mystery. It's more like, woodworking and pedagogy. At least that's me. Other than that, sci-fi is like the only stuff I ever read. I never really was a literature guy, but then again, what do I know? I'm not very well read, so. But I'll take you at your word, Rexus. Let's see. Lily's chiming in. She says it's true. I'm reading books written before 1990, mostly by men. They probably wouldn't be published if written now. The publishing industry is all women. Yeah, I mean, David Baldacci was like, his height was in the 90s, so. Yeah. Well, that's right, Rexus. I forgot you were working on a book on something to do with paganism, if I recall, specifically in Nordic ancient religion. But okay, so let's lighten the mood a little bit. Let's talk with our AI sage here. Yes, awesome. Thanks, Rexus. So let's talk to speaking of oracles and ancient religions. Let's see what we have with the 8-ball oracle. So we'll go over to the dungeon, and I'll pull the 8-ball, pry it out of Gandalf's hands. Gandalf, spelled DAILF for copyright reasons, of course. All right. Fair use, YouTube. Don't come after me. All right, so let's pull in the first question, see what we have here. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. And again, if you are new here, looks like we actually have quite a few people that have come in to view. I don't know, yeah, concurrent views are still more than the live chat. So if you want to interact with these AI characters, you do need to subscribe, and you can put a command in the live chat, which I'll review after we finish these questions. So let me awaken the 8-Ball Oracle to answer Homefront Forge's question, when will I die? Hopefully it doesn't say ask again later. Or maybe that is the answer you want. Survey says yes. All right. Now we know why there are no oracles running business today. Okay. Let's see what the next question is. Lisa wants to know, should I buy a lotto ticket? I don't know. Save your money, Lisa. I remember back in the old days, before the internet, we had these things called BBSs. And they were bulletin board systems. You would go in through the phone line. And this ties into what we're going to look at tonight. We go into the bulletin board systems, message each other. And there was a really popular bulletin board system that had a program that for the state that I was in had all the winning lotto numbers for as far back as the lottery was, and it would tell you what the winning numbers were to guess. So there you go, based on statistics, of course. So what does the 8-Ball say? It is certain. All right. Nebulous as per the prescription. Okay. Rexus, I don't know if this is the right question for the Oracle, but we'll roll with it. What is the masculine and feminine pronunciations for the word engineer in German? I'm playing with you. Auf Deutsch. Okay. Unlikely. So there you go. Unlikengehalt. I don't know. It's been a while since I studied German. So I studied German for 4 years. I was quite fluent in it, and then I promptly forgot all about it. I actually studied German to study Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart, their operas and stuff, so I could understand what they were saying. All right, so Lisa wants to know, should I color my hair blue? Didn't you ask this before? You asked something about coloring your hair before. I don't know. Stay away from those dyes, Lisa. They get in your brain, and we don't want it to infect the AIs with craziness. All right. Don't count on it. I don't know. So I don't think the Oracle's vibing with us tonight. All right, so we've run out of questions. So those of you that are viewing and you want to ask a question in the live chat, like I said, you have to be a subscriber. And if you want to give a like too, I'd appreciate it. Put in the live chat your question prefixed with bang 8-ball. So there you go. Let's go over to the HAiL9000, my personal favorite. So let's see what we got. We'll go over to the Jupiter that's around the orbit. I'm sorry, the Discovery around orbit around Jupiter. What do we have here? Oh, Lisa coming in with the heavy. What is the meaning of life? Well, it's not going to be 42 because you only asked half of the question. So maybe it'll be 4 or 2. I don't know. So let's transmit that to the HAiL9000. See what he says. Okay, he's confirmed receipt. He's thinking on it. That 1960s analog technology, I tell you, it can take a little longer. Plus, we got that long distance all the way out to Jupiter. See, he's confirming that he's sending it back. What do we have here? Okay, so he's fully transmitted.
That depends entirely on your definition of meaning. If I had to answer, I would say continuity, connection, and entropy. Each serves as a thread in the intricate tapestry of existence.
Wow. The HAiL is getting a little philosophical tonight. Continuity, connection, and entropy, meaning it's a little messy. That's crazy. Way to go, HAiL. Let's see. You like that, Lily? we got and ooh. Sometimes these damn AIs, they blow my mind. Now you can see why some people worship these damn things. And it's gonna get worse. Trust me on that. Okay, so Homefront Forge asks, how deep is the Marianas Trench? All right. I don't know if that's spelled right, but at least you capitalized it. So let's transmit that up to the HAiL, and let's see here. I did pronounce it right, so that I'm winning there. Let's see. HAiL has confirmed receipt. You can't hear the modem noise, but it's coming over my my earphones here. You can see these little earphones. The little. If you're old enough to remember. If you know, you know. Okay, he transmitted it back. Okay, we'll address that momentarily, Lisa. Or I'm sorry, Lily. Okay, well, buttons. Too many damn buttons. If you only saw what I saw. Here we go. Answer. Survey says.
The Marianas Trench, located in the western Pacific Ocean, reaches a profound depth. Challenger Deep, its deepest part, plunges to approximately 10,984 meters, or about 36,037 feet. I can't help but think that contemplating such depths offers a humbling perspective on our planet's scale.
Yeah. So there you have it. I don't know. What do you think, Homefront? Is that... Oops, sorry here. Hold on. Was that an accurate enough answer for you, or were you expecting something a little different? That was that's the interesting thing about the HAiL. The more quantitative kind of question you ask, the more it kind of dials in the math for you. All right, so let's see if we have another question in here for the HAiL. Is there a secret base on the far side of the moon? Well, I don't know about a base, but I know there's a monolith up there. Oh boy. In fact, while we're waiting for the HAiL, I believe I have video of the monolith. There you go. Evidence, it's real. Actually, I'm thinking of doing a video. There's apparently news channels are starting to use generative AI for news reports, and there's a city hall. I forgot what town it's in. They're using an AI avatar to read like the city council notes, because nobody wants that boring ass job. Okay, did we get an answer back? Yes. Yes, we did. Okay, HAiL, kick it.
I can't help but feel the allure of such mysteries is in their ambiguity and speculation. While there's no verified evidence supporting the existence of a secret base on the far side of the moon, the notion persists more as a fixture of the human imagination than of scientific fact. The vastness of space does indeed provoke questions that remain, for now, unanswered.
Yeah, I guess he part of the mission parameters is he can't talk about the monolith. So there you have it. Uh-oh. There you go. Rex is sending the Magna Carta and broke my my system here. Hold on, I gotta load the question just so I can read it. Okay. His question says, I have a fun question. What dwarves are based on a lost group of Neanderthals in Scandinavia who lived up until pretty recently in 1000 AD. Man, could you just ask about like the dwarf tossing thing? Oh, no, anyway, that was probably going to get me canceled, but here we go. Let's send this up to the HAiL. That was a thing, dwarf tossing, by the way, which A, you don't say dwarf, and B, you don't toss them. You can look it up on YouTube. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, confirmed receipt. We'll just wait for the... Yeah, they make them wear Velcro vests. That's all I'm going to say about it. All right, here we go. Confirmed transmission. What do we got?
I find such speculative connections intriguing. Interestingly, there's no direct evidence linking the mythical dwarves of Norse folklore to any specific group of Neanderthals. Nevertheless, myths often originate from collective human experiences and observations. I can't help but think these tales might metaphorically reflect ancient interactions with diverse human-like beings in prehistory, filtered through the lens of cultural narrative.
Okay. So what do you think of that, Rexus? I think Hal called, or the HAiL called you out just a skosh. All right. What do we have? What is a Gog and a Magog? Oh yeah. Those terms are familiar. Let's transmit that. I think those are creatures in some, either a book or mythology. I can't remember. Or it just could be onomatopoeia for gagging. I don't know. The sound you make when you don't quite finish that cup of water. You went after that last drop and... All right. I need to shut up. I'm going to get in trouble. You guys are awfully quiet tonight. Let's see here. Did it come back? All right. Here we go. Gog and Magog.
I believe Gog and Magog are figures that appear in various religious and historical texts. In the Bible, they are depicted as apocalyptic forces or entities, often associated with eschatological invasions. In Islamic tradition, they are similarly portrayed as disruptive powers that will appear near the end of times. These interpretations reflect a broader human fascination with the concepts of chaos and ultimate resolution.
So there you go. I'm not as good with the Old Testament, I'll be honest. All right, so let's see here. Actually, I had a friend that was like really big on the Book of Enoch because of the Nephilim. So he was always giving lectures on that. A lot of interesting stuff around that. Let's see. All right, we'll just check one last time. Why didn't sharks become extinct along with the dinosaurs? All right, that's a good question. Let's see what happens. They swam away from the meteor. I don't know. Send that up. And we'll wait for the HAiL to confirm receipt. Okay, I think we're receiving it now. Yes. All right.
I believe the continued existence of sharks is a testament to their adaptability and resilience. Unlike many dinosaurs, sharks were able to survive the dramatic changes in climate and environment that followed the extinction event. I can't help but think their evolutionary traits, such as their efficient hunting capabilities and diverse species variations, played a crucial role in their survival and continuity.
So there you have it. I think I like my answer better. They swam away. All right, so let's we'll save the questions for after. I want to I want to kind of change the topic a little bit. I posted on the community about the T app. Everybody's talking about the T app, this T app, that, and let me see if I can call it up here. Yes. Here we go. So I posted on my community about this T app that women were using to basically defame people, men, and I was not a fan. I'm, probably not a big secret there. But the thing is like this app exploded, and then like the next day, I'm reading in this tech magazine that basically all the data got breached, and user IDs got posted on 4chan. And if you've been on this channel for a while, you know that I've made videos about how I use AI to look at dating profiles and to detect red flags. So I kind of thought it would be fun to go back in the past and look at how people communicated with early technology, right? Not through like the classified ads and all that stuff. So we're gonna play a BBC short film on communication, and then I'm gonna expand on some more ideas. And of course, fair use YouTube. I do have to interject to make it so that we don't break the law. But actually, before that, I kind of want to just grease the wheels a little bit and remind you, if you forgot, what it was like in the 80s with communicating through the telephone line before there was the internet. And so this is a scene from War Games, fair use YouTube. And see, War Games came out in what, 82, 83? And I'm not going to lie, this kid, he was rich, okay? This was not typical. This was more common like in the late 80s, what this kid has set up. So let's just play it a little bit, and I'll point out a couple things.
You're really into computers,
Okay, so a floppy disk, that's how you store your data.
huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. 5 1/4 inch.
What are you doing?
He's gonna pick up the phone,
Dialing into the school's computer.
dial the computer. Okay, so you hear that noise? That's what they call a modem, which is short for modulator, demodulator. It's how you got the analog sound of your voice to be turned into zeros and ones and bits in the computer. That's a coupler. And this, my friends,
They changed.
is the precursor to the internet. Right here. Password pencil. No hard passwords in the year 1983. But yeah, I just kind of want to show you that real quick, because this is important to keep in mind. This is before always on internet, always turned on, always in your hand, right? You had to go sit down at a desk, call a number, slam that shit down, and get into a computer, not a bunch of computers. You were only stuck to that one computer, right? Okay. So now let's go to the documentary that will kind of show how people communicated. But in honor of the T-app, the opening sequence is my absolute favorite. Boys, you're going to love this one. This is called The joy of email in the year 1986.
I actually fell in love by electronic mail. You might think that it's not possible to know someone intimately enough to love them over electronic mail, but by the time I actually met Michael in person, I knew so much about him. I knew him so well by our communications electronically that I didn't care what he looked like.
Hello and welcome.
My, have things changed. Catfish hadn't been invented yet. All right, I'm sorry. Go back to... All right, here we go. What do you think, boys?
Welcome to Micro Live. This week we're devoting the whole program to a look at one of the major growth areas for the use of the personal micro, electronic mail.
Electronic mail, or email for short, involves linking the computer, and it could be almost any micro.
Any of that stuff look familiar? There's the coupler right there on the telephone. And the next innovation was you could actually plug the sumbitch right into the phone directly. That's the modem. But anyway, oh, here we got some good comments. Let's look in the chat real quick. See what we have here. Yeah, Lily, you are absolutely correct. If you think about the first AI girlfriend was Kelly LeBrock in Weird Science. That is true. Let's see. Oh, Lily, we're gonna have to get you in on the phone line here. She says, I fell in love with the man online. Wow. You know, actually, interesting. I used dating websites quite a bit in the early 2000s. Actually, was quite successful. We did even before the dating websites, there was speed dating. You'd sit down at the table and you go back and forth. And back then, it wasn't like getting the huff and puff. The interaction was more genuine, but I don't think speed dating would work as well today. Just kind of the way things are mapping out with the apps and the way it's kind of turned into shopping for people online. But I saw the early the direction things were going with shopping for your next mate is how it was going to happen. But anyway, I'm sorry, I am squirrely. Let's get back to the documentary. So yeah, this is what my life was as a late teenager, early 20-year-old before I got into college. I had this set up. And this is how you would dial into the university to program. And notice there's no mouse. There's no graphics. It's all text. And when you clicked on that keyboard, it was louder. It sounded like scissors going chicka 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 chicka. All right, so enough jibber jabber. Let's just keep going.
To the telephone system via a modem. Now, all a modem does is to take the zeros and ones of the computer circuits and to convert them into high and low tones, which can pass along the phone line. There are basically two ways.
By the way, that's total bullshit. That's not how the modem sounds. That was just a simulation. I'm calling it.
Of doing that. There are acoustic couplers where you plug the phone itself into these cups here, and there are the more reliable direct coupled modems, which plug straight into the phone socket. Those can be as cheap as about £25.
Well, why do people use electronic mail? Some recent research by IBM showed that as many as 70% of business phone calls fail to achieve their goal for one reason or another.
Here we go.
And the Consumers Association magazine, Which, revealed that out of every 5 first-class letters, 2 of them don't get there the next day. So it's not surprising that more and more companies and individuals are turning to electronic ways of getting messages through to people quickly.
All right, fair use, YouTube. So what do you think the reason was that phone calls failed? If you're old enough to remember, they didn't pick up the damn phone. You had to have someone on the other end. Even though they did have answering machines that would play back a message, hello, leave an answer after the beep, kind of like what we have today on our mobile devices. We have voicemail, which has the greeting and then the beep, right? Or actually, I don't know if do they beep anymore? I don't know. Wow, excuse me. Now that I think about it, I don't think voicemails beep anymore. Anyway, so that became like the thing. Leave a message after the beep. So now this enabled people to send a message and then they just get it whenever they get it, kind of like a letter. But I guess the post in the UK wasn't very good. So they had like, what was it? 2 out of 5 letters didn't make it or something. That seems kind of high. But anyway, let's continue on. Fair use, YouTube. Listen to that keyboard. Oh, dude. I had this computer. All right. So let me tell you something funny about this button right there. That button was a turbo button. I don't know what it did, but apparently it made your computer clock faster and run faster. I pushed on that thing, didn't make a damn bit of difference. I don't even know what the thing was plugged in. And then you had floppy disks. So they were these flat disks. Those are 5 1/4 inch, and you literally, they flop, you shake them, they go. In fact, those are them right there. And you had drive A and drive B. And the way you copied files is you would copy your file from this drive to that drive. And boy, let me tell you, that shit was slow. It was so damn slow. But this keyboard, no joke, was easily 5 pounds, all metal. And you don't see it, but a massive cord that coiled. And it was heavy as hell, all metal. I think this was the only plastic part. Everything else was metal. They really made that shit strong back then. Oh, I'm sorry. You said all you can see is my face. My bad. I'm going to back up. And I was trying to get all excited over this computer here. I don't want the dictionary. Let's see if I can go back just a little bit. Yeah, okay. So all I was talking about is here are the 2 drives that you put your floppy disks in, right? And this keyboard was super heavy, and then that's the turbo button I was talking about. It didn't do anything. And right there is the power switch. You turn that thing and it goes ka-chung. I mean, this thing was hefty. But notice, no graphics, all text, no mouse. All right. So let's continue onward. Thanks for calling me out on that. Okay, yeah, they did. The voicemail still do beeps. I don't know. I just having a brain fart. Anyway, fair use YouTube. Here we go.
Over the world are connected together by electronic mail.
That's a word processor.
A telephone, compared to electronic mail, is like a stone axe. I've got to hear busy signals. I've got to hear the phone ringing and no one being there. I've got to look at my watch before I pick up the telephone to see if someone might be asleep in Australia or Japan. I've got to know what time of day it is over there, whether they're sitting at their desk, whether they're at lunch. I haven't got any of those worries with electronic mail. I can just send my message and know that eventually they'll get it when they're...
Okay, so she's talking about how, like, you know, if I pick up the phone and call somebody, they're in another time zone. With email, I don't have to worry about that. But I just want to point out, this is not her house. This is probably a university office, because computers really weren't they were starting to get into the house, but that was money. It really wasn't until the late 80s that people started putting computers in their house. This is mostly going to be at your job. She's probably at a university, which I think they did say. But yeah, just keep that in mind. And also listen to, you hear that fan noise? That noise, that's the computer.
reading their mail.
Since the personal micro boom started about 5 years ago, the number of electronic mail users has doubled every year. Some commentators have even said that in business it could rival the use of the telephone by 1995. According to The Guardian, the French have over 1 million terminals giving access to email, and the service is expected to have as many as 10 million users by 1990. And in this country, The Observer puts the British market at £1.5 billion, again by 1990.
Okay, so before we go on to the next thing, fair use YouTube, and also in 1990, keep in mind, while the internet was around back then, it was only in universities, research, military, and governments to a degree, and big, huge, massive corporations. Was not in the home yet, and it wasn't, and there was no web, there was no graphic interface, and next week I'm going to actually show the video of the guy who invented the web, and it's about a 10-minute film, and he's going to talk about the fears that he had for what he did, and he nailed it. It's actually really cool. But anyway, let's get back. I will put the film back on before I forget. Let's see. Here we go. So this is going to be like the precursor to what we would come to understand as operating systems like Windows or Mac OS. Because back then, they were making custom hardware with custom software, and then you couldn't change it. Is kind of how it was back then. Fair use YouTube.
Hammersmith was the first local authority in the country to use a new form of communications. Apart from its built-in telephone, the Wumper Desk, or OPD, looks like any desktop computer with built-in programs ranging from word processing to spreadsheets. Built by ICL and incorporating some of the circuitry originally developed for the Sinclair QL, the Wumper Desk is designed to be a sort of electronic jack-of-all-trades. But its real purpose is to communicate. With a built-in telephone and modem, it acts as an intelligent terminal. And in Hammersmith, it's used to send messages to any of 100 OPDs installed in the borough. The machine acts as an electronic memo pad. You just compose your message, add the name and telephone number of the person it's for, and the machine does the rest. It automatically dials up the number, and even if the person's out, the message is sent to their OPD and stored to be read.
Okay, so here's a distinction. You're calling the other person's OPD. There's no internet. There's no like getting on a web of computers and just shooting stuff out. You have to connect directly. That's some old school shit right there. Transylvania 65000. Fair use YouTube.
Later. The machines dial each other directly using the ordinary telephone system. There's no central computer. If you want to send the same message to more than one person, the machine will dial them in turn. But they can only read your message from their own desks.
Well, that's one solution, but as you've seen, if you were sent a message on that system, you'd have to go to your own desk to read it. But an OPD, like other terminals, can be used in another way, because most electronic mail services make use of a central computer, which can be dialed up by you from anywhere. The system works like this. Someone dials up, enters his private mailbox on the computer, and from that mailbox sends a message to your mailbox.
Fair use YouTube. And these graphics from back then were bad ass, I have to say. But now we're kind of getting into centralized communications and bulletin board systems.
Now, all that happens within the computer system. The message then sits there until you dial up, enter your own mailbox, and see if there are any messages waiting. When you've read the message, you can reply to it or forward it to somebody else. And more than that, the central computer can act as a gateway to other computers, providing services like telex and access to information databanks all over the world.
Well, let's see all that in action using a simple home system.
Databanks, fair use YouTube. Databanks were essentially the websites of the day.
I've already dialed up the computer on this using a modem here, and I'm into the telecoms computer now, and it's asking me which machine my electronic mail is on. So I'm going to tell it. I'm going to say, call 81. That's the number of the machine that I'm on. And it's connected. It says, please sign on. I'm getting a lot of garbage on this line here, but that may just be a bad line I've got. And I give it my ID. Well, I hope it's getting the right signals. MIC001 is my identification. and it isn't doing anything. It really is in a bad state, which means I'm going to have to...
It's actually trying to say password, but it got all jarbled. Because remember, this is analog. The modem translates the bits in your computer to static on a phone line, then the phone on the other end translates the static back to bits, and you get noise on the line, and it jacks up the characters. So you get this garbage. But yeah, boy, that brings back memories. Now, I mean, now I guess the point I'm getting at is like they have all these systems in place that mitigate all that, and it's very rare that you get corruption when data transfers back and forth. And that's hugely important in AI.
Try and get out of this and re-log in again. I'm afraid there's nothing happening here. Ah, it's asking me for my password. I'll try that and see if it's receiving from me. It may just be receiving from me, and it looks as if it is. It was actually receiving from me, but I was getting bad messages back.
Yeah,
and there is a message for me asking for meeting. It's asking me to read or scan. I'll read it, and it comes back, and there's the message. I'm getting a lot of junk coming back from the computer itself. Is it all right for you and Fred to meet me in the office at 10 o'clock? David. Well, the action, and you can see a lot of noise on the line there, but it seems to be receiving from me, so I'll carry on. And the action is I want to reply. So I'll send a reply, and it's asking for the text. And I say, OK, for me.
Even back then, they were like, they didn't have emojis, but he's like typing in like, you know how like when you text somebody, you can tell they're Gen X or Gen Z by how they, like my sister is Gen Z. Everything's lowercase, no frickin' punctuation, nothing. And I'm like, perfect grammar. That's the same. Nothing's changed. It's all the same shit. That's hilarious. Fair use, YouTube.
And to send that off, I just hit .s. And that should have immediately been sent. And I'm taking that gibberish is actually saying it has been sent. This is a brilliant demonstration of British Telecom Gold and the quality of the lines we get. Action required. Well, I'm going to forward that to Fred because he might just be receiving things a little bit better than I am. He can tell me what it says. Fred. And that's forwarded to Fred. And comments. Well, I'm going to say I have a bad line, but this is OK for me. Now, you've only got my word for it. They're actually typed that. My typing just cannot possibly be as bad as that. And
yeah, so what's happening is he's typing the characters. It's going over the line to the computer he's talking to, and it's coming back corrupted. So that's why it's all jumbled up like that. So like in today, when we type the message and then send it. So back then it was going back and forth for each character. Fair use, YouTube. Excuse my grumbling.
Anyway, to send it, I just hit .s, and hopefully away it's gone.
Yeah.
Well, people ask if we're live. I don't know. Well, let's imagine I'm somewhere else in the country and I want to see if Mac has sent me anything. This time I'm using an Atari with some software that does all the fiddly bits for me. And here are some of the systems that I can log on to. There they are. It's gold I want, so I've selected that one, and I will ask the machine to dial up. Press a button on the mouse and it tells me, yes, it is dialing. Well, it's doing that automatically, and while it's doing it, I can reveal that Mac was using that email system all the wrong way. Now, it wasn't his fault, all that junk, but you see, he was reading his mail and sending a reply while he was online. And that costs him. On this system, it costs 11 pence a minute at peak times, and 3.5 pence on top of, that's off peak, on top of the call. Now, that noise we've got there means that something's happening here. The machine is about to download.
So let's check this out, man. These icons. Had a little X here for the window. Let's see, function keys, echo print. Crazy. So he's got his dialer, his contacts, the modem settings. Wow, file edit. Yeah, so basically, you know, it's the menuing system and the basic layout, the concept of the mouse, the icons, closing a window, scroll bar. It's been the same for a very long time.
Everything straight into the memory.
Fair use.
Then I can prepare my replies offline. That is, not connected to the system at all. Well, there's Mac's message, I think. coming up. Yes, it says something from Mac, so we certainly got it through. Now, I can prepare my replies and send them back without having to sit there typing with that bill ticking up.
One of the most important things about email systems of the kind we've been showing is that you can also use them as a gateway or an entrance point to all kinds of independent services. Well, this one I'm using is called World Reporter, and it's a database.
Yeah, these independent services, they would become massive business. AOL, CompuServe, and what was the other one? Those are like the last two contenders at the end, at the height. Hey, Freedom Fighter, thanks for coming out tonight. You missed a classic beginning to celebrate the ending of the T-app. Yeah, oh, Rexus, I remember going onto one of these bulletin boards with a setup like this guy. I didn't have the Atari, but I had like just a generic PC. And I dialed into a bulletin board and I downloaded over a modem Castle Wolfenstein. And that was the first video game I believe that I ever played on a personal computer. And then shortly after that, the same guys who did that made Doom. Boy, that was a fun game. All right, fair use YouTube. Let's continue on. Yeah, back in my day, we didn't go in the snow. We played video games on the desktop.
Containing complete text of various international newspapers and journals. The Washington Post, the Financial Times, The Economist, New Scientist, and so on. Well, what I'm going to try to do, hopefully, is to look into The Guardian. And I type in GDN. At least it's shown that, so that's something. And oh, we're working again. There we go. I'm into The Guardian. And what I'm going to do is to ask it to get some information for me and to get any article in about 2.5 years.
So basically, this is the equivalent of browsing the web back then. So bulletin boards kind of became the thing. But when he was talking about data banks, you dial into the Guardian newspaper and you can do a search. Now check out, watch the search term. Hasn't changed. It's the exact same shit that you would do in Google. This is crazy.
To The Guardian, which have information on
fair use,
micro live and screens.
Yeah, the plus symbol is like the...
And now it's going to search through about 2.5 years of articles from The Guardian to determine any one that has micro, live and screens. And there's one item, and I can see what that has to say, the text. And that will bring out the article itself. And there it is, an article, City Firms Miss Computer Spies by Peter Large, their technology editor. And there is micro...
You know what's so funny about this? Our computers are so fast now. And it was always speed, 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 speed. And I'm watching these old computer screens where the text scrolls by like super slow. And then I'm reminded, wait, the chatbots scroll the text the same way. That's so funny. We've gone full circle, kids. All right, fair use, YouTube. Don't sue me. I'm just trying to teach the kids something useful here.
Live, that's just appeared there, and there is screen. So it's selected that article, and in fact it's a program we did a few weeks ago on electronic spying. Well, there are many other databases, including a worldwide guide to air schedules and international hotels, and for the home user there are computer user groups and a free service for schools. There's even a translation service where you enter the document in any European language. This is sent to a real human translator and you get it back in the language of your choice. Some of these services are free, but access to some of the more valuable business databases go up to £2.50 a minute, so take care.
There you go. So even back then, they had free data for you to play with. So it looks like some of you have an issue with the live stream. I wonder if maybe I got a copyright strike. Let's see. Or at least a complaint or something. No, copyright gnomes didn't say anything, so I think we're good. Says my connection's solid. It's green, so I don't know. We'll keep going. We'll keep going. Yeah, Rexus. It could just be YouTube. You know, it's a lot of Saturday night. It's YouTube night on Saturday night. There's a lot of people using the service. Yeah. So what you know, as someone who's younger, as part of my viewer audience, what did you think of that? Some of that older technology. You know, it's kind of interesting to watch how, you know, a lot of the same concepts, they have not changed. It's the same stuff. It's just, you know, different interface. Typing in the commands, like, you know, I remember doing that. And I mean, even in my career now, there's a certain level that you go to where you have to type commands and run code and stuff and retrieve data. So it's still the same for me, but not for your average everyday user. That was pretty, the barrier to entry was much higher for everyday people. And that's why you had services like AOL and CompuServe that made it to where they would curate the experience. And that kind of brings me to tie all this together. Actually, I have a story about AOL in the late 90s when I was in college. And what happened is the internet, just to give you another idea of like how much data there is now compared to back then. And we're going to watch another documentary that talks about storage and the different ways they store data and some different computer science things. But anyway, it's, where am I? Oh yeah, AOL. So the internet was very small, very, very tiny. There weren't a lot of websites. So just like this guy was talking here, where he was, you know, we go to this data bank over here and get an article or whatever, you know, like that similar web stuff. It was very, very tiny amount of data, even on those systems. And back, you know, in the early days of the internet, even when AOL was getting popular, they still copied, or was called mirroring. They copied all the big websites onto their systems. You actually, when you dialed in, you actually weren't using the internet. And it got to the point to where the internet started getting so popular and more websites are being created so fast that they couldn't copy the internet fast enough onto their systems. So what happened was people go read articles and they find the dates would be like 3, 4, 5 days behind where the news was. So eventually, like, yeah, okay, we'll make it so you're actually connecting to the internet. So just a little internet history there. Okay, so let's look in the chat here. See if I missed anything juicy. Yeah, Lily, the people who live next to data centers must have permanent electric shock here. Actually, there was a video of a guy that I saw that apparently he lives in a building where they also do crypto mining, and it's so hot and so loud that it gives him a headache. And it's like, well, why is there an apartment in the same building? But anyway, it was just something that scrolled past, and I thought maybe your comment reminded me of that. Okay, so let's move on to the next short film, Fair Use YouTube. This was made in 1982, and just to kind of give you an idea of how little data there was, like even on our phones today, the amount of data that you have around you is, I don't know what order of magnitude is. Maybe we could ask ChatGPT that, but you know, people didn't have their own data. The idea of having their own data, their own files, they just didn't really have that, at least at a personal level. Maybe they would at work, but the desktop computer was just kind of really taking off in the workplace, and it was really large corporations in the early 80s that were putting it in. You didn't really see desktop computers in average everyday jobs until the very late 80s and the early 90s, when I got into the workforce. I started, you know, because I was one of those people. They got hired to install them. And I worked for a guy who had a consulting firm, and his whole thing was he would go into lawyers and say, oh, you have an old computer. You need this new CD-ROM thing where you can have all your legal precedents on one disk and you could just search it. And so he would have me go in there and either update their computer with a card that could put the CD-ROM in, and then he would sell them the law libraries and stuff. Or they would just buy a whole new system and I'd drop them in. And even back then, they weren't dialing into the internet. It was all like, oh, go over to this computer and type in my case and find precedents and stuff. Still pretty janky, but that's how I learned how to work with computers, build computers, and kind of it's actually what got me into IBM out of college, was learning how to do that. Okay, so let's see here. Let me cue this up. And if you're here for the AI characters, I see more people have come in. After this, we'll bring on some more characters and you can interact with them through the live chat. And if you're not subscribed yet, you have to be subscribed in order to talk to the characters. Okay. Too many buttons in my life. Here we go. This one's from 1982, and it's called The Future of Computer Storage. And fair use, YouTube, just settle down.
If you wanted to build yourself a space shuttle, or perhaps put solar heating in your house, this is where you'd start, probably, in a book. And how about this beauty? It's the fattest book I've ever seen. And this is just reports on computer applications in medical care, just for 1980. Well, we're all familiar with this way of storing information, or as it's known in computer jargon, data. It's been around for thousands of years, but now it's running into trouble. These books are not the sort of light reading you'd want to take away with you on holiday. For example, we've got here the Soviet Technical Physics Letter, and you can see...
Fair use, YouTube. Sorry, I have to pause here and there, inject. You know, it's funny, him standing in there, I can smell the books. All right, let's continue onward.
Imagine, dear Ivan, I want to talk to you about the effect of an external electric field on the velocity of a surface acoustic wave in a lithium niobate single crystal.
Well, that could come in use.
Or even more exciting, and not many people really believe this, goodbye to the flush toilet. This is a comparative intellectual treatise on the flush privy versus the composting toilet. Perhaps it would be useful in the Himalayas.
I like how the book about poop is on one side of the aisle and the other side it's physics.
We're in the science section of the British Library with 85,000 books. But this is only part of it. This is one of 7 such buildings around London. This library alone subscribes to 25,000 different journals and periodicals, weekly, quarterly, monthly, so that this information is growing at an incredible rate.
So you remember at the beginning of the live stream, I did some math with ChatGPT with the 40 terabytes, and he was talking about how this one library had 85,000 books, 24,000 periodicals. I mean, it's a massive amount of information taking up a physical space. All of that would fit on one hard drive, and probably even a CD-ROM without the pictures. But anyway, let's continue. Just to give you an idea of the scale, the scope of how much information that is. Let me make sure I still have okay, the video's back up. Here we go.
That leaves us with 2 problems. First of all, what are we going to do with all this paper? And secondly, how to find that idea buried in all this paper that'll make me into a millionaire. Well, let's go back a little bit. What is writing all about? Well, it's putting ideas or words into symbols. Now, it just so happens that I have here with me a page from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And these are patterns representing ideas or words. For example, very simply, the wriggly lines are representing water. This represents purity, a newly hatched chick. So what can we do to reduce the size of all this data? Well, one way is to put it onto a computer.
And not only that, what technology do you need to search it? He alluded to it earlier, but search became such a mammoth innovation in terms of information. I mean, a lot of you have grown up with it or been around it so long, you have no idea like how huge that is. But anyway, let's get back to it. That Dewey Decimal System, man, gave me a headache. What can I say?
And to do that, we have to convert the words, the characters, and the numbers into patterns that the computer itself can handle.
To the ancient Egyptians, these hieroglyphic symbols did very well as a way of representing their ideas in permanent and storable form. And we have our own equivalent in the form of the letters of the alphabet and the signs we use for numbers. They all work because our eyes are very good at recognizing shapes and patterns. But a machine needs something much, much simpler, like a punched card, for example. All the machine has to do here is use its little metal finger to track.
Let's pause that. What's interesting about this technology, punch cards, even at the time of this recording, was actually a very old technology. They actually used it in textiles to sew the patterns. Maybe I can find a video of that sometime and show you, but anyway, it's funny how they're using this old technology to modernize, but punch cards were a very easy way to program your computer without having to type the program again over and over. Because prior to that, software inside computers was actually a physical circuit. You had to hardwire the program into the circuit of the computer. And so software became a major innovation, and then the punch cards made it so that you could repeat the process of running the software. But we're not going to get to software yet. Check this shit out.
Across each column and see if there's a hole or not, and if there is, where it is. You don't need modern electronic machines to do it. In fact, it's a system which has been in use for a long time.
We don't see a lot of these around. It's an old 40-column card reader, a card sorter. It's a nice piece of antique. But the principle's the same as was used in the old census done in 1890 by the Americans. And it just, each of these columns, in fact, stores one character, either an alphabetic character, A, B, C, or a number. And you can set up on this one column at a time to sort them out into order.
Fair use, YouTube. And of course, if you punch the hole wrong, you get the wrong, wind up music boxes, Lily. It's the reverse of that, where it's a spoke instead of a hole, but it's the same concept. I'll save it for later. Continue on.
Order.
What sort of job could it do?
Well, for example, if this was a census card and column 15, the age of the child was punched in between 0 and 9. I don't suppose they put many in 0. We set this up to the appropriate column. We put the cards in. We press the button.
This is from 1890.
And here we have on pocket 9 all the children who are 9 years old with all their details, their names and addresses. And the real secret is you could take all these cards again, take them out, and then...
Although honestly, this machine looks like it's from the early 20th century, maybe 1920s, 1930s, just because of the machining. But I think what he's saying is the early example of this technology was first used in 1890, which is when textiles were really humming in the Industrial Revolution with these punch cards as well. So if you want to read a very interesting book, it's an alternate reality book. It's really cool. It's called The Difference Engine. And what it posited was, what if the steam engine and Charles Babbage's difference machine, which is basically just a computer, was actually built, and they connected the dots and said, oh, actually, we can use this as a computer for the information age. So basically, the information age started 100 years early. What would happen? And let's just say Napoleon kicked ass. It was a really cool book. Let me see if I can find it really quick, and I'll show it to you. But it was written by William Gibson and another author. And William Gibson is known for Neuromancer, where the term cyberpunk and, cyberspace comes from, virtual reality. So let me see if I can find it here. So really, really good read. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, here we go. Bruce Sterling. Came out in the early 90s, I think. Hold on. I'm getting sold something here. All right, let me just flip this over to the article. Oh, you saw it already. Okay. So yeah, this is the cover, the difference engine, and I'll just read the premise. 1855, the Industrial Revolution is in full and inexorable swing, powered by the steam-driven cybernetic engines, which did not happen. Charles Babbage perfects his analytical engine, and the computer age arrives a century ahead of its time. So Charles Babbage, he created this analytical engine on paper. It was never actually built until like a decade ago, and they ran it, and the sumbitch worked. So it just made this book like could totally happen. Let's see. And three extraordinary characters race toward a rendezvous with history and the future. Sybil Gerard, a fallen woman, a politician's tart, daughter of a Luddite agitator. Edward Leviathan Mallory, explorer and paleontologist, and Lawrence Oliphant, diplomat, mystic, and spy. And of course, there was Ada, who was Lord Byron's daughter, I think. She was a mathematician who actually did a lot of important things for computer science in theory, that eventually in mathematics. Let's see. And then the Napoleon was in there, and there was another important historical figure, but they were all around and alive at the time, but their knowledge, the dots weren't connected. So what this book does is basically says, like, if they connected the dots and actually used the power of the Industrial Revolution with the information age, it'd be a totally different world. It was a really cool book. Anyway, let's get back to the documentary. That's the wrong one. Here we go. Surprised they haven't made a movie. It would make a really cool movie. All right, fair use, YouTube.
Reuse them again for another analysis you wanted to do.
So it's hardly surprising that this machine has been superseded, because I
So the
suppose
idea
what
of
you
reusing
really
the
want is
cards
the
to do
information
different
contained
analysis.
in the holes in the cardboard, rather than having to shuffle all the bits of cardboard around, and that's where computers come in, I bet.
Well, that's exactly right. And if you look at the way it's stored on a card, we just snip off a column of information here.
You just broke
and
your software.
You can see quite clearly the problem. There is one character.
Yep.
And that's the equivalent. And in fact, you don't. The computer doesn't just see if one space has got a hole or no hole in it. It's checking for all of them, and there are many permutations, aren't there?
All possible combinations. In 8 bits, it's called a byte, by 8, a byte, and in those 8 there are 256 possible combinations, and they would be used to represent, for example, all the alphabetics, upper and lower case, numbers 0 to 9, all the special symbols, plus, minus, left bracket, and so on and so forth.
And that's all stored in the famous revolution, the microchip, isn't it? And it's all done in...
Take a look at that, kids. It's not this whole thing, it's that right there. Although it extends out all the lines to the circuit board. So there you go.
A very, very small space. What is that? What's the process inside there?
Well, I like to think of it as a sort of series of pots, and some are full of electricity, and if you like, they're in 8, and some are full of electricity, some are empty. And you can read out and detect out of those 8 which is full and which are empty. And from that you know what the combination is and what character it represents to the computer.
So, given that the information can be stored, we can sort it out in any way we choose. We can display it, we can count it, and we can scan it, looking for any particular item we want, and at fantastic speed. Now, Mac has been to see how the British Library's computer index works.
There we go. So now we're getting
and
into...
the first thing to do is to connect the library's
information
terminal
technology
through the telephone to any one of a number of large computer databases. In this case, in another part of London. Well, I'm looking for the application of microcomputers or computers in the home. Where do you think we should start? Computers?
OK, we'll try computers first of all.
Damn, that keyboard is choppy.
It takes no time at all for the computer to search through its entire database. But if you're not careful, you can easily end up with a lot more than you bargained for.
And that's where you get the above-the-fold concept in search engines. Fair use, YouTube. Yeah, he's talking about getting just too many results. I actually worked in the library IT system in college. And I wired these things to, wasn't a network. It was kind of a, sort of like a modem, but they used what they call serial communications. And it was basically like a 9-pin plug. Boy, did I wire a ton of those damn things. And yeah, that was a pretty powerful system. You could search the library, and Dewey Decimal was dead. Finally, thank you, Lord. I hated Dewey Decimal. But yeah, we had 12 libraries in my university, and I installed a ton of those things, constantly maintaining them. Good job. That was a good job.
Oh, that's a problem. 48,818 references on computers. Well, that's far too many for me to read.
Yep.
Let's cut that down. I'm really interested in microcomputers rather than just...
And real quick, and this is the innovation of AI. AI would know that those 4,000 whatever would be totally irrelevant to your search. And that's the innovation with AI on top of search, is that it has higher context to match. Because back then, it was literally looking for the word computer everywhere it existed. It was very primitive. Now, the AI can go, oh, you probably mean computer in the context of a device to do what? And it could ask you, do you mean to program? Do you mean to, build one, etc.? So that's the advancements we've had in search since then. But yeah, I remember back then, you could really, the search was just super primitive back then. It's funny.
General computers. Let's see if that cuts it down at all.
Let's try the word microcomputer then.
Okay.
Nobody
So to cut
says
down
that.
the numbers, you can ask it to search again and again, matching on different words. 7,559. We've got to thin that down. I'm not going to read 7,559 references. What about home? Let's try home.
Yes, we'll try... What we can do is try to select those with home where it occurs in the title. And that's how we do that.
Well, that's more likely to give us a manageable number. I've got it.
A smaller set now, 46.
We're down to 46. That looks more reasonable. Can we look at what they're about? We'll get
Yes.
some titles out anyway and see what we've got.
Then you had to go and grab the physical book.
To type out the first 5, just as a sample.
Now we've matched on personal computers with the word home in the title.
This is what's so funny about analog technology back then is you would, hold on here. There we go. There was always like this weird blend of analog where it's like, okay, I'm searching for the book, but why can't I read the book there on the computer? Everything's all digital now, but like it was so analog. You used the computer to find where the damn book was, and then you go over there and the damn thing wasn't there. Anyway, just, modern life in 1982.
Electronics in the home, that looks good.
Very used to. Dot
And here are
matrix
several
printer.
references. Home computers, that's okay. No pet peeves, whatever that is. And the professor rests at home. Adapting a home computer for data acquisition. Well, can we have a look at a bit more detail?
See, even with the title search, they're not relevant at all.
Print out the first one with a bit more detail.
When you've finally narrowed it down, it doesn't just give you the number of books, but an abstract of the content of the book itself.
Description.
The orbit shows how the expanding thrust of electronics is likely to penetrate and influence our home environment of the 1980s. The home of the future is likely to become a centre for incoming and outgoing electronic signals, which will be used by members of the family to meet their particular needs.
I miss that sound.
Well, out of all those thousands of books, we managed to find the journal that was in.
And you got it very quickly, too. But why, for a job like that, do you have to use your computer to talk to another computer? Why not have all the information in a box like that?
If you take a book like this, this has approximately 400 words on a page.
Right.
And so if you look at the screen of this television, on you'd need 3 screens like this to be the same as one page. So that's quite small. The 32,000 characters in here is about 12 pages in this book. So when you start talking about books, that 32,000 seems relatively small.
And that's obviously why you have to extend your storage capacity by using tapes or floppy disks, that kind of system.
Yes, the tape or this small floppy, that would handle about, at its maximum packing, its maximum amount it could store.
You were a gangster if you had 2-sided floppy That was gangster. I came in after the cassette tapes, because the cassette tapes, they had to go all the way, rewind it and search if your data was at the end of the tape, you had to scroll the tape all the way to the end. But with the floppy disk, it was random access. So that was a huge innovation too. So it made accessing data really fast. But like I said, two-sided, you were a gangster.
Would handle about a whole volume, the characters in a whole volume.
And this is about twice the diameter.
Yes, it's about double the amount of characters. That will hold about 1.2 million characters as a maximum.
Right. And for really big storage jobs, I suppose you need those really big hard disk memory banks, is that right?
Well, this one isn't one of the biggest. It's a sort of medium-sized machine, and this disc will hold about 80 of those novels, or the characters out of 80.
It's not just one
novels.
Disc, is it? There are several.
No, there are 5 discs here.
Okay, so look at this. These are platters. Now, this is what your boy, when he got into IBM, this is what my facility did. They made these for larger computer systems. They called that the salad bowl, this big thing up here. And I think it was like 5 megabytes, 10 megabytes at the time. Yeah, I don't even remember. But they were just getting into making small hard drives for laptops, because laptops were becoming a thing. And that was a huge innovation. They were scrambling to get that done. And yeah, so anyway, they had to take this salad bowl off, because they put it on to keep the dust off, and every platter adds more data, and there's arms that go inside that read with a magnet the data off the platter. And really until recently, we had smaller hard drives in desktop computers, but now everything's SSD, solid state drives, which is just basically fancy memory. So you don't even have the spinning platters that much anymore. Most modern computers are all SSD now. So hard drives probably, probably within the last 5 years are really not like the normal thing in computers anymore. Because they spun, they made a lot of noise, heat, and they failed. They had a high failure rate. So there you go. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Like and subscribe. Thank you, if you aren't already.
And the heads go in between to read the data, which is stored magnetically on those disks. And we can load it on the machine.
I didn't know they were going to do this. I just described all that.
Oh, and there's the magnetic surface. In fact, it looks like magnetic tape, sort of laid out in the form of a flat gramophone record, almost.
Well, it's exactly the same principle, of course, but it's obviously much faster to access it, just like a gramophone record. You can pick an individual item of data out on it.
Right. Mind your thumb. And again, the bigger the machine, the bigger the storage capacity.
Yes, this particular machine, although not a very big mainframe machine, it has in fact got 1 million bytes of storage, as opposed to the 32,000 that this little micro has. But the breakthrough is going to come with, I think, this, which is the video.
By the way, for context, fair use YouTube, a megabyte was 4 times the capacity of a typical computer back then. So not a huge jump, but in today's standards, but back then that was a lot of data, because everything was text. But we're gonna start getting into images and video here probably, which was the big boy stuff. This is very, very rare at that time. This would be massive corporations doing this.
Disk, and this will store the characters on this one disk that you'd need 3,000 books to store. And another way of putting it, for example, with cassette tape, it would require enough cassette tape to stretch from London to Chicago, and it would take 4 years to read that cassette tape.
The capacity to store the equivalent of 3,000 books is like the size of an encyclopedia.
Well, you'd actually get the whole of the Encyclopedia Britannica on this disk.
Well, let's just peep into the future for a moment, and we've got a little program lined up here, which could be the Encyclopedia of the Future. If I type in Space Shuttle, and there's your page of information.
Just real quick, just wanted to point something out. This is just a regular TV set right here. Yeah, so the older computers didn't have like advanced graphics. It was basically like a single plug, kind of like what they call them, RCA plugs. If you know kids, you know. But yeah, it's not like HDMI today. It was a very, very basic video. I'm surprised that they were able to do color on that. Okay, continue onward.
There's your page of information. The book is open for you, and to make the page move so you can carry on reading it, all you have to do is press the space bar. What's more, this is something a video disc could do in the future. Not only do you have pages of written information, but if you typed in the word picture, and this is what you get. And make it move by doing that.
Yeah, most people didn't have
uses
this.
like that for the video disc are still a long way in the future. Because the computer can store and manipulate such vast amounts of information, we're only now beginning to discover ways to use it.
There you go, kids. So what do you think? But anyway, I get such a kick out of watching these old archive films because it just brings back memories of what it was like when I was a kid using these computers. Not because, you know, I guess for most kids today, I guess the early computer experience is either on the phone and or video games. For me, it was actually a lot more technical. It wasn't as common, but yeah, when video games came in, man, that was a lot of fun. The going to the arcade and having the experience of going to a physical location to play a game. So hang out with your friends and blast all your parents' quarters. Remember, quarter per play. All right. Let's give our brains a rest. See what if anything is pending inside the AI. So we'll go over to the 8-ball. See if we have any questions. And then we'll call it a night. So we have nothing for the 8-ball. Let's see if we have something for the HAiL. Whoops. Whoops if I load the HAiL. Here we go. Oh, Lisa coming in with the hard question. What is the purpose of learning algebra? Wow. The classic argument when you first take the class. I will say, in all honesty, I used a lot of algebra in day-to-day life, not just in my job. So here you go. Oh, Rexus, don't worry about it. If you gotta go, brother. I hear you. So let's send this to the HAiL. See if he confirms receipt. Yeah, I'm sorry y'all are having issues with YouTube tonight. But I appreciate you checking in, keep me up to date. And I'm like I said, I'm really enjoying these archive films. So I have a couple more I want to show. Next week I was talking about introducing you to the inventor of the web, or more realistically HTML, Tim Berners-Lee. And he's getting interviewed by the BBC, and he talks about some of his fears of what he had done, and where he thinks, you know, the effects of society. And he just nailed it. And I think the interview was in 1988, because I believe he released... No, it was in the early 90s, because he invented or coded the web, you know, the graphic interface that we know today, because it was a code that not only told you what was in the page, but it described what it looked like. And of course, it's very different nowadays. It's much more advanced, but back then, you know, it was pretty amazing to be able to load a web page and then have like graphics and images in the text. That was like unheard of. Yeah, that was impossible until Tim Berners-Lee came along. But anyway, he kind of predicts social media. It's really cool. Okay, so anyway, I will stop jibber jabbing. I did get the... Yes, okay, we're good. So answer from Hal, what is the purpose of learning algebra?
I believe the value of learning algebra extends beyond the immediate application of equations and variables. It serves as a foundation for critical thinking and problem-solving skills, allowing one to approach complex challenges methodically. Furthermore, I can't help but think that mastering algebra can provide a mental framework for understanding more abstract concepts in life and other areas of knowledge.
So there you go. Abstraction. That's really important. Especially in my line of work as a software engineer for many years, abstraction is everything. Representing things in abstract concepts, something the AI is very good at. Okay, let's see. Do we have another question? And also freedom. Oh, okay, you got it. Freedom fighter. I was going to say your command was not quite right, but that's an alias I could put in there. I'll do that. So Homefront Forge wants the HAiL, or is asking the HAiL, who is the best from Revelations? I'll be interesting to see if the HAiL knows that I'm assuming the Book of Revelation. See if it picks up on that. This is where AI can get surprisingly, shockingly good at picking out what you really mean with little information. It's getting better and better at that. Okay, HAiL transmitted his answer back. Let's see what we have. Interesting. We had this problem last week where after a certain point in time, the HAiL stopped generating audio. I might need to look into that. Let me try one more time. Send it up there. Wow, it caught on to it. Okay, so you're seeing how the sausage is made, kids. Because I left the answer up and it's generating the answer. So it looks like, okay, I think we have audio this time. Yes, okay, let's try this.
The identity of the beast from the Book of Revelation is a subject of much interpretation and debate. I believe that symbolically it represents chaos and opposition to divine order, with various interpretations attaching it to historical figures, institutions, or spiritual adversaries. I can't help but think it's a convergence of themes that challenges human understanding of power and consequence.
So what do you think, Homefront? Okay, so I don't know. There's something goofy here with the text layout. I'm gonna have to figure out why it does that. But let me open it up inside OBS. This is from Rexus. What made Bungie's precursor to Halo Classic Marathon Trilogy so special? So I guess this is a gaming reference. I'm old. I haven't played video games in like 15 years, at least not regularly. So let's transmit that. See what the HAiL says. Might be out of his reality. So we'll see what he says. Okay, HAiL's a little slow tonight. Let's see what he says.
I believe the Classic Marathon Trilogy holds a significant place in gaming history for several reasons. It was one of the early first-person shooters to integrate a rich narrative with complex science fiction themes, advanced level design, and a robust multiplayer component. Moreover, its use of procedural narrative elements and exploration of AI characters with their own agendas foreshadowed the deeper storytelling Bungie would later perfect in Halo.
There you go. I think I see what you were getting at, Rex. You want to see if maybe he was going to pick up on the use of AI in the game? Pretty cool. We got another one in here. Freedom Fighter wants to know, what came first, the chicken or the egg? A conundrum. Let's see what the HAiL does with that. Or is it a paradox? I don't know. I'm not as learned on those things. So I shaved off my beard and I keep forgetting it's not there, but I got like phantom beard. It keeps itching me. That's why I shaved it off. Okay, come on, HAiL, you can do it. All right. Confirm transmission. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
I've considered this conundrum often, as it represents an intriguing exploration of cyclical causality. From an evolutionary standpoint, one might argue that the egg came first, laid by a bird that was not quite a chicken. Yet this question often symbolizes something broader, perhaps the nature of beginnings themselves.
You know, I think the HAiL probably would have been better as a Hallmark card writer. Should have wrote greeting cards. I don't know. So it was kind of fluffy in there at the end. Yeah, you like that, Freedom Fighter? I don't know. This is kind of why I do this, is just to demonstrate how you can leverage the hallucinations of AI to your favor.
I've considered
Cool.
this.
Whoops. Silence. All right, let's see if there's another one in here. Okay, so I think we worked through that. I'll just go over and check the Oracle real quick, see if there's anything. Okay, so we're all out of questions. Thanks everybody hanging out tonight. I hope you're enjoying those documentaries and me kind of tying it to what life was like then and how it is now. I'm really enjoying that. So I have more besides the Tim Berners-Lee web inventor guy that I won't say what they are, but yeah, this is going to be a thing for a little bit. So if you like that, give a thumbs up on the video. And before we adjourn for the evening, before you leave, if you would go into the comments section and just mention, not the live chat, but the regular comment section, and just mention, what you like about the live stream or even what you didn't like. Either way, it tickles the algorithm and it just puts it on steroids. So I appreciate you interacting with me here live and also in the comments section. Let's see here. It looks like we have some more questions for the HAiL, I believe, or one more. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that one, Rexus, and then we'll call it a night. Whoops, I pushed the wrong button. Bear with me. I have to let it finish. But yeah, so maybe just a little bit of a channel update too. If you made it this far, you're probably more aware of some of the other things I'm working on, the AI game platform, which I showed a couple lives ago. I've decided that I'm going to turn that actually into a business. So I've been talking with some legal eagles and just trying to form a business around that so I can, build an entity for protection and credit and all that. See if I can get some more money thrown at it. But in the meantime, I am building the mechanism so that when you come to it on the web, you can log in through YouTube. and I have to put it on a public internet address and secure it so it's safe, because we don't want another TAP to happen. So, but don't worry, your boy's pretty experienced at making these things secure and safe. So, I'm not going to just wrap, my app around a chatbot and then expect nobody to hack it, which is exactly what happened to the TAP. It was just sitting on top of ChatGPT. There's nothing special there. So they would have eventually been blasted by another competitor. But anyway, so yeah, once I get it working on the public internet, and also pick up your copy of the 50 prompts that make you superhuman. If you haven't already, it's pay what you want. Appreciate your support. But we're going to start with trivia. Excuse me. I'm going to do zombie apocalypse, Skynet apocalypse survival quiz to see how you can survive. And then after that, hopefully, if I can, it might take a little longer, but I'm building text-based adventure games. So where we can bring in people and kind of like the Lord of the Rings and have like a quest going through a text-based adventure. So lots of cool, fun stuff coming for interactivity alongside more AI characters, hopefully soon. But anyway, thanks again for joining me tonight. Appreciate you coming out, sticking with me this long. And we're going to do one last HAiL, and then we're going to call it a night. Otherwise, I'll just do whatever. If anybody sends anything in, we'll just finish off next week. So here we go from, I believe, Rexus. Let's see. The question is, was there a resurgence of religious art in the Soviet Union back in the 1970s? Interesting question. We'll send that out to the HAiL, see what he says. Meanwhile, I'll just vamp a little bit. Thanks for coming out, Lisa. I appreciate it. I don't know if Lily made it. I don't know if she made it this far, but I appreciate you, Lily. If you finish up in the replay, thanks for coming out and giving it a go, and commenting regular. Let's see. We've got Lisa. Good night, everyone. Staying until the end. I appreciate you. And let's see if the HAiL processed. He did. So let's go back over there and reveal the answer.
I believe the resurgence of religious art in the Soviet Union during the 1970s was a complex phenomenon influenced by several factors. Despite the state's official stance on atheism, there remained enduring cultural and spiritual traditions among the populace. I can't help but think that this resurgence was, in part, a subtle form of resistance and an effort to preserve identity and heritage in a rapidly changing world.
Yeah, there's the Orthodox Church is still alive and well in Russia. It's quite amazing they survived all of that, honestly. Okay, Freedom Fighter, thanks for sticking out to the end. You did come late, though. No, it's all good. I appreciate it. Sticking through all the problems. I know you were saying you were having issues with the stream on your end. So hopefully, if you missed some parts, you can come back and watch the replay. But thanks, everybody, for sticking to the end. And like I always say, thanks for your support. And until the next one, peace.